Snow whipped through the crooked trees, stinging the girl's cheeks as she leaned forward, dragging the heavy, bloodied body behind her. She had no name worth remembering, not anymore. Folks had called her things once, some kind most cruel, but since the fire and the screaming, she had been no one, just a girl in too big boots, carrying too much pain, and now, carrying a man twice her size who should have been dead. Her hands, chapped and cracked, gripped the rawhide belt looped under his arms. His moccasins left a long furrow in the snow as she pulled him toward the shallow cave she'd found the night before. A rocky overhang, barely shelter, but it was all they had. He was Cheyenne. She knew it by the braids, the beads, the war paint half smeared by blood. She should have left him. Settlers whispered stories about men like him, savages, monsters, murderers. But none of that matched the man she'd found near the stream, slumped like a discarded doll, arrow through his thigh, ribs barely moving. She'd stared at him for a long time before she acted. Then she pulled the arrow free and nearly screamed when he twitched. He was alive. Barely. Now. Her breath steamed in the frozen air as she dropped to her knees at the cave entrance and yanked him into the shadows. Her shoulders ached. Her lips were split from wind and cold. She fumbled with her flint, cursing softly when the spark refused to catch. "You gonna light it or fight it?" A low voice croaked behind her. She jumped, spun, knife drawn. The Cheyenne man had cracked one eye open, his lips curved in the faintest of smirks. "You're awake," she whispered, narrowing her eyes. "For now." She lowered the knife but didn't put away. "What's your name?" He didn't answer. "What tribe?" She tried again. He coughed. "You ask a lot of questions for someone dressed like a scarecrow." She blinked, unsure if it was an insult or a joke. Then he groaned, collapsing back against a rock, the brief moment of strength fading. She finally got the fire going. Not much. Just enough to thaw his fingers and heat the ragged blanket she wrapped around his shoulders. She worked in silence, checking the wound in his leg. Red. Angry. But no sign of rot. She packed it with herbs and chewed bark she'd learned from a trapper woman long dead. "I didn't ask for saving," he muttered. "No one ever does." Silence stretched between them like taut wire. The wind outside carried something else now, distant hoofbeats. Her head jerked toward the sound. "You expecting company?" he asked, eyes sharp despite his weakness. She shook her head slowly. "Not unless you invited trouble. They might be following me." "Who?" He didn't answer, just shifted, winced, and pulled the blanket tighter. The fire crackled softly. Outside, the hoofbeats grew louder. She moved fast, snuffed the fire, grabbed her knife, shoved it into her belt, and hauled him deeper into the shadows. He bit back a groan. Snow filtered into the narrow crack in the rocks. She pressed her back to the stone wall, listening. 3 riders, laughing, speaking a mix of languages, Lakota, English, and something rougher, something ugly. She peeked through the slit. Not Cheyenne, not soldiers either. Raiders. She recognized the one in the fur coat. He'd been there when her father screamed. Her blood turned to ice. She gripped the knife tighter. "What do we do?" the wounded man whispered. "We wait," she breathed. "And if they find us, we don't wait." The raiders dismounted. One walked close, peering into the wind-swept trees. Closer, closer. She held her breath. A coyote cried in the distance. The man turned his head, distracted. Then laughter again. They mounted up, rode on. She didn't move until the hoofbeats faded into nothing. "That one," she muttered. "The one in the fur. He killed my father." "You sure?" "I don't forget faces." She finally let herself breathe again. Her hands trembled. The Cheyenne man studied her in the dark. "You saved me," he said quietly. She met his gaze. "Didn't do it for thanks." "You could have let me die." "Should have." "Then why didn't you?" She hesitated. "Then, because I'm tired of being the one who's always left behind." He stared at her. No mocking, no smugness, just silence. "I lost everything," she continued. "Family, home, name. I figured maybe if I saved something, Maybe I could hold on to a piece of myself. He looked away. I know that feeling. A long pause. She shifted. What's your name? He finally answered. Tessina. You got people? Had. Not sure anymore. Then we got something in common. She fed the fire again, carefully this time, shielding it from the cold. He reached out, slow, deliberate, and took her hand. Thank you. She swallowed hard. No one had thanked her in a long time. Not like that. Outside, the wind screamed again. He shifted, trying to sit up straighter. They'll come back. Those riders. If they're tracking me, we'll have to move. You can't walk. I can crawl. She almost smiled. Almost. We'll leave at first light, she said. Follow the river south. There's an old hunter's trail. Might still be passable. He nodded once, then leaned back, exhaustion overtaking him again. She stayed awake all night, eyes fixed on the entrance, knife in hand. At dawn, she helped him stand. He leaned heavily on her. Snow crunched underfoot. Their breath clouded in the pale light. They walked slowly, two strangers wounded and hunted, leaning on each other like ghosts that refuse to die. Neither spoke much, but in their silence, a strange rhythm formed. One step, then another, and the moment the frozen trees behind them whispered again with distant hoofbeats, she didn't look back. She just gripped his arm tighter and said, "Move faster." Because now they were running together. And for the first time since the fire and the screaming, she wasn't alone. The river was half frozen, winding like a cracked bone through the wilderness. Every step the girl took on its brittle edge sent sharp pains shooting up her thighs. But she didn't stop. Tessina limped beside her, his weight slung over her shoulder. The wound on his leg bled anew, darkening the buckskin he wore. But he kept moving. Stubbornness was a language they both spoke fluently. The raiders would double back. She knew that. They always did. We need higher ground, she said, eyes scanning the distant hills. Pines stood like black spears against the gray sky. Too exposed, he grunted. There's a hunter's trail near the ridge. Might lead to a cave or something. Then move. Behind them, the sky churned with more than snow. The wind had changed. She could taste it in her mouth. Something was coming. The kind of quiet that builds before a gunshot. By midday, her legs shook with every step, but she didn't say a word. Neither did he. Not until they reached a bluff and saw smoke twisting in the sky below. Campfire, she whispered. Tessina narrowed his eyes. That's not my people. How do you know? Wrong kind of smoke. Too heavy, greasy, smells like bear fat. She nodded. Raiders, then. Maybe even the same ones. And they were close. They veered off the path, deeper into the pines. Her fingers curled tighter around the hilt of her knife, and her other hand held tight to the broken leather strap she'd looped under Tessina's arm to keep him upright. As the sun began to dip, snow started falling, slow, thick flakes that muffled their steps but hid their tracks, a blessing and a curse. The cave they found was little more than a hollow in the rock, hidden behind a fallen cedar. She ducked first, dragging it behind her, and once inside, set to work making the tiniest fire she could manage. Smoke curled lazily toward a natural crack in the ceiling. It wouldn't give them away. Tessina sank down with a grunt. "You don't ask where I'm from," he said. She glanced at him, her hands busy drying damp tinder. "You don't ask why I talk to trees." "You do that." "Sometimes," she said, deadpan. "They're the only ones who listen." He chuckled, a short, sharp sound like a bark. "You're strange." "I'm still alive." "That counts." When the fire was steady, she cut open the wrapping on his thigh. The wound was red and angry, but not infected. She cleaned it with melted snow and rewrapped it in torn linen. The pain made him flinch, but he bore it. "You ever killed anyone?" he asked quietly. She paused. "I thought I did once, when the raiders came. I swung a skillet at one's head hard enough to dent it." "The skillet or the head?" "Both." That earned a wheeze of amusement from him. But the mood snapped like a twig underfoot, when a noise echoed from the trees. Whistling, not bird song, not wind, a signal. She was on her feet in an instant, smothering the fire. The warmth died quickly, leaving only the faintest glow on the stone. Tessina reached for the bough he'd scavenged from a Lakota corpse days ago. The string had been replaced with her hair ribbon. Primitive, but it worked. She crouched by the cave mouth, peering through the branches. 3 silhouettes moved between trees. Raiders, laughing. Close. "We set traps," she whispered. "Here." "No. Out there. Draw them away." He raised a brow. "You think like a hunter." "I think like someone who doesn't want to be caught again." They moved fast, in the dark, with only memory and instinct guiding them. She and Tessina set makeshift snares with wire and rope, things she'd salvaged from old homesteads. A buried spike beneath a pile of leaves. A pit trap near a crooked tree. Crude, but deadly. Then they waited. One raider approached, kicking snow aside. He was tall, wore a buffalo coat, and dragged a curved blade behind him. His laughter echoed as he sniffed the air. "She's close," he said to the others. "I can smell her." She tensed. He was the one from before, the one who'd killed her father and lit the wagon ablaze. "I want the girl alive," he growled. "The half-dead Indian's just bait." Tessina leaned in. "You recognize him?" She nodded once, tight. "I'll kill him." "Not if I do first." They waited, hidden behind a rock, barely breathing. The raider stepped forward, and with a scream, fell into the spike trap. His howl of pain shattered the air. The others rushed toward him, only for one to trip a wire and release a log she'd rigged, which slammed into his chest with a bone-cracking thud. The third spun in panic, only to be met with Tessina's arrow through his neck. Silence fell. Snow continued to drift. She stood, her breath fogging. Her knife was still in her hand. The man in the spike trap was still alive, cursing, bleeding. She approached slowly, boots crunching over blood-slick snow. He saw her and sneered. "I remember you. Little rabbit hiding in a wagon. You remember my father?" He spat, cried like a... She didn't let him finish. The knife slid into his throat in a clean, practiced motion. Tessina didn't stop her. He only watched. When it was done, she wiped the blade on the raider's coat and turned away. Her hands trembled, not with fear, with memory. He limped to her side. "You didn't hesitate." "I did once. It cost everything." Together, they dragged the bodies into the underbrush, covering tracks, taking only what they needed: blankets, food, a better bough. Back in the cave, they relit the fire. Later, she sat with knees pulled to her chest, staring at the flames. "I should feel something," she whispered. "Guilt, satisfaction, anything." "You feel tired," he said. "That comes first." She nodded. "And after?" He didn't answer right away. "After comes fire." They ate in silence. Salt pork and snow-melted water. Survival food. He noticed her gaze on the harmonica tied to her belt. "You play?" "A little." "Then play." She hesitated, then lifted it, blew a trembling note. The tune was slow, sad, the kind you play when the world outside forgets your name. When she finished, he said, "That was the loneliest sound I've ever heard." "Fitting," she replied. He poked the fire, watching the embers glow. "You still have no name?" She shrugged. "Gave it up when I buried them." "I'll give you one, then." "Oh, yeah? What would it be?" He paused, eyes gleaming in firelight. "White flame." She blinked. "That sounds like a spirit. You walk like one. Leave us behind." She snorted. "I prefer rabbit girl." "You earned better." He leaned back, sighing. "You saved me, burned 3 devils to ash, and led us through death." "I also cry at night." "Good. You're still human." The fire crackled. She looked at him. "What now?" He met her gaze. "We follow the river. I know a place. A ridge where the pine needles never fall. My people might be there, if they haven't been slaughtered. And if they have, then we survive again." She nodded. "We'll leave at dawn." The flames danced across the walls, flickering shadows that looked like warriors. Outside, the snow slowed. Inside, something unspoken had taken root. Trust? Or something like it. They were two broken things, walking through fire with teeth bared. And they weren't done yet. The sun rose blood-red over the ridge as they climbed, the sky streaked with firelight and frost. Each step up the snow-packed trail sent jolts of pain through Tessina's wounded leg. But he didn't ask to stop. The girl, White Flame, he'd named her, walked ahead, her breath a steady cloud, the harmonica at her belt catching flecks of dawn. Neither of them spoke much. They hadn't since the night. They left the raider corpses buried beneath the cedar roots. But now, as the trees thinned and scent of smoke drifted on the cold wind, clean smoke pinewood, Tessina slowed. He raised a hand. She froze. Down in the shallow valley below them, half hidden behind a wall of sharpened logs, sat a Cheyenne winter camp. Teepees, horses tethered near a frozen stream, women tending fires, children bundled in deerskin chasing each other through the snow. It looked peaceful, alive, but the tension in Tessina's jaw said otherwise. You know this place? I do. Your people? He didn't answer, just stared down at it like a man staring into a storm that had already taken too much. They descended in silence, moving cautiously. A watchman near the palisade spotted them and raised a short alarm. Not panic, curious. Others gathered as they approached. Men with war paint, women with hard eyes, elders bundled in fur-lined cloaks. Spears raised, not yet thrown. The girls stayed behind Tessina as they passed through the gate, trying to read the faces, hear the whispers. Most looked at her with suspicion, some with disgust. When they reached the center of the camp, an older man stepped forward, muscled, weather-worn. Scars laced his arms. He wore no headdress, only a feather braided into thick black hair. Tessina nodded to him. Gray antelope. The man's face didn't change. I thought you were dead. Nearly. You look it. They embraced, stiffly, like wolves measuring bite strength. Then Gray Antelope's gaze shifted to her. What's this? She saved me. Gray Antelope raised a brow. The girl? Tessina nodded. She a prisoner? No. Then she's a problem. The girl stepped forward. I can hear you. Gray Antelope's lips twisted into something like a smile. Good. Then you know you shouldn't be here. Tessina's voice dropped. She's earned her place. She's not one of us. She's not the enemy. A woman emerged from the crowd. Old, thin as a reed, eyes like melted snow. She walked with a twisted cane and moved slower than the wind. But when she stopped beside Tessina, even Gray Antelope stepped back. Old Raven, he said with a nod. She ignored him. Her eyes studied the girl. You carry fire, she said in a voice like crackling bark. But your hands are cold. The girl blinked. I'm not trying to take anything. Good, said Old Raven, because they will give you nothing. She turned to Tessina. Your leg smells of fever. He lowered his head. You'll stay. But if the fire spreads, I will not stop the wind. With that, she walked away, and the gathered crowd scattered like leaves in her wake. Later, they were given a tent near the outer wall, not with the others, not truly inside the circle. The message was clear, close enough to see, far enough to be forgotten. The girl sat cross-legged beside the fire, sharpening a knife she'd stolen from a raider. She could feel the stares from outside. Whispers. Footsteps that paused just a little too long. Tessina sat across from her, silent. She broke the quiet. You told me they'd kill me if I came. They still might. She smirked. Sweet welcome. He didn't laugh. Gray Antelope wants my place. He thought I was gone. You being here makes me look weak. I saved your life. That's not how they'll see it. She looked down at the blade. I'm used to being a problem. That night, she tried to sleep, but the wind howled too loud. Somewhere outside, drums began. A low rhythm, ceremonial. She sat up, listened. Tessina didn't stir. His breathing was shallow, fevered. She checked his leg. The wound was inflamed. Worse. She grabbed herbs from her pack, started chewing bark, mixing salves, doing what the trapper woman had once shown her. But before she could finish, someone stepped into the tent. Gray Antelope. She stood, knife in hand. He's sick. Leave. Gray Antelope held up his hands. I didn't come to fight. Good. I came to offer a solution. She didn't speak. You don't belong here. And if you stay, it will tear the camp in two. I can give you a horse. Supplies. Safe passage west. Why? Because Tessina was my cousin, and I don't want to bury him. He needs help. He needs rest. Without distractions. She stepped forward. You mean without me? He didn't deny it. You think you belong? You don't. You wear our clothes like a costume. Our food tastes strange in your mouth. Our ways, our pain, you'll never understand them. She didn't lower the knife. I understand loss. I understand being hunted. And I understand how it feels to be told you don't belong. His face darkened. This is your last chance. No, this is yours. She nodded toward Tessina. Because if he dies, I swear I'll bury him beside the next man who tries to use him. Gray Antelope's jaw tensed. Then he left. The next morning, she woke to laughter. Children. When she stepped outside, she found 3 kids huddled near her tent, staring at her boots. One whispered, "Are you really the fire girl?" She knelt beside them. "Who told you that?" "Old Raven says you burn devils in the trees." She smiled slightly. "They burn easy." The children giggled, then ran off. A shadow shifted behind her. Old Raven stood nearby. "You don't need to be liked," the elder said, "but you do need to be seen. Why are you helping me? I was once you. Wrong skin, wrong tongue, right heart." Inside the tent, Tessina groaned. She ran to him. His skin was burning hot. She grabbed water. "Herbs." He muttered something in Cheyenne. She shook him gently. "Tessina, stay with me." His eyes fluttered open. "Don't leave. I'm right here." She held his hand through the night, fighting the fire inside him. By morning, he breathed easier, slept deeper. But when she stepped outside, she found a camp already awake, and Gray Antelope gone. Old Raven met her by the fire pit. He left before dawn. With riders. Where? To find peace with devils. The girl's heart sank. "He's trading me." Old Raven nodded. "And Tessina?" "He doesn't know yet." The girl stared toward the horizon, toward the trail Gray Antelope had taken. Her fingers closed around the harmonica at her belt. She'd carried it all this way. Her father's, still unplayed. She raised it to her lips, and for the first time in years, let a note ring out. It was sharp, defiant, a warning. Tessina would wake soon, but she wouldn't wait, because the fire inside her wasn't for warmth anymore. It was for war. Tessina awoke with start, sweat clinging to his brow despite the morning frost. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The canvas walls around him, the muted drum beats outside, the soft echo of wind over snow, it all felt wrong. But what hit hardest was the absence. She was gone. He pushed himself upright, pain lancing through his thigh. The fever had broken, but the wound was far from healed. Still, the ache was nothing compared to the cold pit in his chest. He searched the tent. Her pack was missing. So was a harmonica. Outside, the camp moved with uneasy energy. Conversations halted when he passed. Eyes turned, and when he reached Old Raven's fire, her silence spoke louder than any words. She followed him. The elder said softly, "Gray Antelope." He left before dawn. Tessina's voice was hoarse. He was never going to trade for peace, was he? "No," Old Raven replied. He went to buy power with her life. His hands clenched into fists. She knew. She did. He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, then opened them. How long? Long enough to leave a trail you could follow. She left it for him. Of course she did. She didn't expect to win. She just expected him to come. He didn't ask for permission. He gathered his bow, his knife, a small pouch of herbs, and mounted the fastest horse in camp. No one stopped him. No one dared. Snow kicked behind him in flurries as he rode hard through the pines. the horizon burning with pale light. He found her trail quickly, broken branches, the faint mark of boots in the snow. She was good at hiding, but not from him. Not anymore. By midday, he spotted smoke curling from a rise beyond the canyon. He dismounted and approached silently, weaving through rocks and brush until he saw them. 4 raiders, one of them gray antelope. And at the center, bound to a wagon wheel, stood the girl. Her face was bruised, lips split, but she stood straight, proud, defiant. A raider raised a hand to strike her. She laughed. "You hit like a chicken with a limp," she spat. The man's hand trembled, but he lowered it. "She's trying to bait you," Gray Antelope warned. "Save your strength. We'll trade her to the highest bidder soon. There's always someone who wants a ghost white fire girl." From the shadows, Tessina knocked an arrow. The first one didn't even scream, just dropped. The second barely turned before an obsidian blade sliced across his throat. Panic shattered the camp. One raider ran, slipping in the snow. The third reached for his pistol, but caught a hatchet to the chest instead. Gray Antelope drew his own blade. Tessina stepped into the open. "You should have stayed dead," his cousin snarled. "You should have stayed a man," Tessina answered. They clashed like storm and flame, blades singing, boots churning up snow. Gray Antelope was fast, practiced, brutal, but Tessina had fury, purpose. He didn't fight for position or pride. He fought for her. Gray Antelope landed a slice across his ribs. Tessina staggered. Blood bloomed. But when Gray Antelope moved to finish it, the girl screamed, "Now!" Tessina ducked low as she kicked the wheel, breaking a spoke with her foot. It snapped, swung around, and smashed into Gray Antelope's legs. Tessina lunged, drove his blade deep into his cousin's gut. Gray Antelope gasped, then stilled. It was over. Tessina stumbled toward her, knife trembling as he cut the ropes binding her wrists. She looked up at him with blood in her hair, eyes burning. "Took you long enough." He laughed, raw and breathless. "You couldn't wait 5 minutes?" "I had a schedule." He pulled her close. Not out of romance, not out of pride, out of relief. She sagged into him for a moment, then whispered, "They wanted to sell me, said I was worth more alive. Guess they were right." He met her gaze. "You're worth a war." They torched the raider camp before they left. Everything. Fire roared across the canvas in crates. The wheel she'd been tied to cracked in the heat. They didn't speak much as they rode back. The snow fell steady, soft, like the sky was trying to cover up what had happened. When they returned to the Cheyenne camp, there was no celebration, no songs, only silence. Tessina tossed Gray Antelope's braid onto the council fire. No words, just the truth. Old Raven stepped forward, stared at the girl, and nodded. She burned for us, and still stood. From that day on, no one questioned her place. She lived on the edge of the camp still. Never quite inside the circle, but never alone again. She and Tessina sat by the fire most nights. He taught her words in his tongue. She taught him to laugh at off-key harmonica tunes. She never asked for love, but when he built her a home beside his, she didn't refuse. And one night, when the fire burned low and the world was still, he said, "You lit something in me I thought was dead." She touched the scars on his chest. "You saved me back." They were both half broken, but fire once lit does not go out quietly, and they burned together, bright, defiant, and unforgettable.